learn to be alone. Whoever is delighted in solitude is either a wild beast or a god, wrote Aristotle. But what if solitude is neither curse nor escape, but the hidden key to true freedom? In a world that glorifies constant connection and endless noise, the art of being alone has almost been forgotten. Yet Buddhism reminds us that only in silence, only in solitude, do we truly meet ourselves without masks. Today, on Dharma Pulse, we explore why learning to be alone is not about isolation, but about discovering your deepest essence. Have you ever felt the fear of being alone? Or have you tasted its quiet liberation? Share your thoughts in the comments below, because your journey may inspire another soul walking this same path. 1. Solitude in Buddhism. The Buddha once taught that the one who sits alone, lies down alone, walks alone, and practices alone is the one who tames the mind. And in this truth lies the hidden gateway to liberation. Solitude is not an emptiness to be feared, but a field where the mind confronts itself without distraction, a place where consciousness sharpens and illusions dissolve. Society tells you that happiness is measured by how many people surround you, by the possessions you can display, by the validation you collect. Yet all of these are fragile, temporary, and incapable of quenching the deeper thirst of the soul. Buddhism teaches that to be truly mindful is to dare to step away from this noise, to embrace aloneness, not as punishment, but as purification. Spiritual traditions across time return to the same principle. Prophets seeking deserts, sages wandering forests, monks meditating in caves. They withdrew, not out of weakness, but to find strength that the crowd could never give. Even the Buddha, once a prince drowned in luxury, recognized that indulgence only multiplies desire. He left the palace not to lose life, but to discover it, stripping away the distractions of wealth until only truth remained. In that silence, he uncovered a vibration that pulsed beneath all things, an energy untainted by the illusions of status or pleasure. What makes solitude terrifying for many is not its silence, but its mirror. To be alone is to face the self stripped of masks, without the constant noise of conversation, screens, or busy schedules. In solitude, the mind reveals its chaos, its hunger, its restless craving. Yet if you remain with it, if you allow mindfulness to anchor you, the turbulence calms and transforms. Fear gives way to clarity. Discomfort melts into presence. And in that presence, you awaken to a higher frequency of being. Solitude is the crucible of transformation. It burns away identities you borrowed from society. It dissolves the roles you thought defined you, and it leaves only the essence of who you are. The promises of society, success, recognition, endless connection are shimmering mirages, always just out of reach, keeping you thirsty. Solitude is the hidden wellspring. It shows you that happiness is not external, not conditional, but already present within you. The energy shifts from clinging to release, from lack to fullness, from illusion to reality. To learn to be alone is to form the most intimate relationship you will ever know, the relationship with your own soul. It is not the rejection of others, but the refusal to let your worth depend on them. It is the moment you stop seeking yourself in other people's eyes and begin to discover yourself in silence. Far from weakening you, solitude strengthens, heightens perception, and refines compassion. It opens the space where mindfulness becomes not a practice, but a way of being, where the vibrations of your own energy align with the vast rhythm of existence. Solitude, then, is not exile, but return. It is the path back to the core of life, where peace is not something achieved, but something revealed. And in learning to be alone, you discover that you are never truly alone, for within the stillness, the universe itself speaks. Have you ever truly embraced solitude as a way to understand yourself more deeply? If so, share your reflections in the comments so others can learn from your journey. If not, simply write, "I will try," and take the first step into this powerful practice of Buddhist solitude. 2. Buddha's example. Before enlightenment, Siddhartha was not yet the Buddha, but a prince surrounded by luxury, pleasures, and endless distractions, yet still restless in his soul. He believed, as many of us still do, that happiness could be found in indulgence, but soon realized that the satisfaction of the senses is fleeting, like water poured into a cup that cannot hold more once it overflows. Rejecting this life of pleasure, he swung to the opposite extreme, subjecting himself to 6 years of brutal self-mortification, starving his body and punishing his spirit in the belief that suffering would open the gates to truth. Yet when he was near death from this harsh path, he understood that pain for its own sake leads nowhere. Just as indulgence binds us with golden chains, self-denial binds us with iron ones. Both are prisons of the ego, disguised in different forms, and neither leads to freedom. This is where Buddhist wisdom reveals a timeless truth, the middle way. It is not the path of excess, nor the path of torment, but the path of balance where material and spiritual life can walk hand in hand. Siddhartha's awakening was not born of ritual or noise, but of silence and solitude beneath the Bodhi tree, where through meditation he faced himself fully and discovered that the world could never give him clarity, liberation, and peace. In this stillness, he confronted the illusions of the mind, letting them rise and pass like clouds across the sky, and found within that balance the key to enlightenment. And what about us? You may not be a prince in a palace or an ascetic starving in the forest, but do you not live in both extremes in your own way? Perhaps you have drowned yourself in relationships, achievements, or endless digital noise, chasing validation that never lasts. Or perhaps you have punished yourself with guilt, shame, or denial, believing that to suffer is to be worthy. Both illusions keep you trapped, blind to the truth that real freedom lies in balance. To learn to be alone is to step outside of these prisons. Solitude is not emptiness. It is a return to yourself. In silence, the world's clamor fades, and you begin to hear the voice that has always been there, the steady, quiet strength of your own mind. Meditation becomes the doorway through which this strength unfolds. It teaches you to sit with your thoughts without drowning in them, to see desires without becoming their slave, to meet suffering without letting it define you. This is the lesson of the Bodhi tree, that truth does not come from extremes, but from balance, not from noise, but from silence, not from running outward, but from turning inward. The Buddha's journey is not a distant story locked in time. It is a living call to you now. If you dare to pause, to sit alone without fear, to balance the material and the spiritual, you will uncover the same treasure he found, that enlightenment is not somewhere far away, but hidden in the very silence you once tried to avoid. 3. Loneliness versus solitude. Loneliness and solitude may appear alike, yet they carry entirely different energies. Loneliness emerges from fear and lack, while solitude blossoms from awareness and presence. Society often convinces you that success means being constantly surrounded by people, possessions, and noise. But deep inside, you sense that this endless busyness often leaves you feeling empty. To be alone does not mean you are abandoned. It means you are stepping into the silent forest of your own mind, where every sound is clearer and every thought has space to breathe. If you see solitude as punishment, it becomes a prison. But if you embrace it as sanctuary, it becomes a temple where spirituality and healing flow naturally. Your room is not four walls closing in. It is a monastery, a sacred space where your soul learns to breathe. Stillness is not emptiness. Stillness is overflowing with energy, guiding you back to yourself. Loneliness asks, "Who is missing?" But solitude whispers, "What within me have I been neglecting?" The world can be like an invisible prison, built from comparisons, the need for validation, and the fear of being left behind. Yet solitude hands you the key to break free. In the quiet, your energy is no longer wasted on chasing approval, but instead invested in creating light. As Thoreau said, "I never found the companion that was so companionable as solitude. For in silence, you realize you are never truly alone. The universe itself is breathing through you." When you allow yourself to sit quietly, spirituality awakens like a seed beneath the soil, hidden yet unstoppable, and healing begins to seep into the cracks of your heart. To sit alone is to enter the alchemist's chamber, where fear transforms into courage, wounds into wisdom, and isolation into freedom. Solitude is a mirror that reflects not emptiness, but the vast reservoir of strength already within you. When you stop resisting and accept solitude, you discover that life has not abandoned you, but is instead preparing you, deepening your roots and sharpening your awareness. Alone, you become like the ocean calm on the surface, infinite in depth, and within that depth lies the greatest truth. You were never broken, never incomplete, only being called back to yourself, to your own healing energy, to the unshakable center of your being. Leave your likes and subscribe to Dharma Pulse. And don't forget to activate the notification bell so you never miss a teaching that nourishes your soul. To affirm your choice of solitude over loneliness, type in the comments, "I choose solitude, not loneliness." 4. Transforming energy. Energy is never destroyed, only transformed. And this truth, affirmed by both Buddhism and science, shows us that the loneliness you feel is not a void, but a raw current waiting to be shaped. Left unattended, that current corrodes the mind, weighing it down with heaviness and despair. But guided through mindfulness, it becomes fire that purifies, light that awakens, and strength that carries you to higher states of being. Loneliness whispers that you are incomplete, that you must seek distraction, validation, or noise, yet mindfulness teaches you to sit with that whisper until it dissolves into silence, revealing the pulse of your own existence. In solitude, the masks fall away, and what remains is not emptiness, but the beginning of freedom. For solitude strips the ego of its audience and forces you to confront the raw essence of the self. The Buddha himself abandoned a palace overflowing with pleasures, not because he lacked, but because he was drowning in excess. And in the stillness of the forest, he discovered that true wealth is not in possession, but in presence. This is why Buddhism praises solitude. It is the furnace in which false attachments are burned away, and in that fire, the gold of awakening is refined. To walk alone To sit alone, to lie down alone, as the Buddha said, is not punishment, but liberation. For it is in this space that suffering ceases to be an enemy and becomes a teacher. Mindfulness is the tool that channels the restless energy of loneliness into clarity, turning the ache of absence into the joy of presence, the vibration of despair into the resonance of inner strength. Every unobserved thought is like wild energy spiraling into chaos, multiplying into overthinking, regret, or fear. But the moment awareness enters, the chaos organizes itself. Psychology calls it rewiring. Spirituality calls it raising vibration. Buddhism calls it awakening. The language differs, but the essence is one. Energy changes form when touched by consciousness. What once felt like the poison of loneliness begins to taste like medicine, giving birth to determination, wisdom, and the will to grow. This transformation is not abstract, but visceral. You feel lighter, clearer, and more aligned, no longer chained to the illusions sold by society that happiness is found only in company, in consumption, in endless interaction. True happiness does not come from what surrounds you, but from what awakens within you. To embrace solitude is to step beyond the myth of lack, to see that you are already whole, already connected to the great current of existence. Loneliness is longing for connection. Solitude is realizing you are connected to yourself. Through mindfulness, you learn that every breath is a bridge, every heartbeat a reminder that energy flows endlessly through you, waiting for direction. And when you choose to guide it upward, when you decide not to let it decay, but to let it ascend, you discover that being alone is not a curse, but a sacred opportunity. The very ground where transformation becomes liberation. 5. Practical application. Me time. When you give yourself at least 15 minutes of me time each day, free from the buzzing of your phone, the constant lure of entertainment, and the endless demands of others, you reclaim the ability to hear your own mind. Buddhist wisdom reminds us that freedom is not found in noise, but in silence, not in endless striving, but in moments of stillness where meditation awakens clarity. We are taught to believe that productivity comes from busyness, yet it is within quiet solitude that your inner compass begins to point true. If your days are filled with the voices of others, whose voice are you really following, your authentic self, or the echoes of expectation and fear? Society praises connection as the highest form of success, but the greatest transformations, whether the Buddha under the Bodhi tree or countless seekers who retreated into silence, emerged only when solitude was embraced. In those moments alone, energy is no longer scattered outward. It is drawn inward, revealing what is real and stripping away what is false. He who sits alone, walks alone, and practices diligently alone, the Buddha said, finds delight in the forest. Solitude is not emptiness. It is fullness without distraction, the space where you no longer need to prove yourself or seek validation in the eyes of others. Yet if you cannot sit still with yourself for 15 minutes, how can you hope to carry the weight of an entire lifetime? If you cannot face your own silence, what are you running from but yourself? These minutes are not indulgence. They are necessity. They are the time to confront fears, soothe wounds, acknowledge shadows, and nurture growth. Meditation in this solitude is not escape, but immersion, peeling back the fog of distraction until reality shines with honesty. When solitude becomes a practice, It transforms into a teacher more demanding than any mentor, more compassionate than any friend. It reveals that peace is found not by controlling life, but by surrendering the need to control. That self-awareness is born not through comparison, but through reflection. And that true growth is discovered not by adding more, but by letting go of illusions. Each daily moment of silence becomes sacred ground, a fire where falsehood burns away, and your true self emerges with strength. Solitude teaches you to question what you have been told is true, to walk your path without fear, and to live from a place of authenticity. These quiet minutes become the soil where wisdom grows, the space where illusions dissolve, and the furnace where your real character is forged, until you realize the peace, clarity, and liberation you once searched for in the world has always been waiting within you. If this message has inspired you to embrace your own sacred me time, declare it in the comments. I honor my solitude as a path to peace. Let this be your affirmation today. As we come to the end of this reflection on solitude, remember that learning to be alone is not about isolation, but about rediscovering your own essence. The Buddha taught that those who sit, walk, and rest in solitude find the deepest freedom. And today, we explored why embracing this quiet path can bring clarity, peace, and liberation from the noise of society. Let solitude be your teacher. It can turn fear into wisdom and emptiness into fullness. How might you bring a little more mindful solitude into your daily life? Share your thoughts in the comments, because your journey may inspire someone else's. And if this message resonated with you, support our Dharma Pulse community by liking, subscribing, and continuing to walk this path of growth together.